Amazing. Wow. Wow. So let's give a hand to the Second Line Social Aid and Pleasure Society Brass Band. How about that? So good evening. And happy anniversary, Massachusetts. Thank you all so much for being here tonight. Tonight marks 7 wonderful, historic, and hard-won years of equal marriage in Massachusetts. It is also, coincidentally, the International Day Against Homophobia and Transphobia, which we think is a fitting coincidence. We didn't plan it, but I like it. I know there are a lot of places that you could be right now. It is event season after all, and on behalf of the individuals and families that Mass Equality serves, I appreciate you choosing to be here with us tonight. I want to acknowledge some of the elected officials that we have in the room. We have with us State Representative Alice Wolf, our honorary lesbian, Representative Alice Wolf. Cambridge City Councilors Denise Simmons and Ken Reeves. We also have with us staff from Representative Tom Sanacandro's office. And to the electeds in particular, and if I missed anyone, it's because I didn't see you, and we are thrilled that you're here. To the electeds in particular, I wanted to say that your commitment to a better Commonwealth is critical to Mass Equality's work of advancing equal rights and opportunities for all lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people from cradle to grave. Thank you for your leadership, and thank you for celebrating with us tonight. I also want to thank those who made tonight possible, our sponsors, Club Oberon and the American Repertory Theater, Upstairs on the Square, and Kick-Ass Cupcakes. I especially thank Kick-Ass Cupcakes because I don't know if I could ever say kick-ass in public in any other context. Our host committee members who did a phenomenal job putting this event together. If you're a host committee member, please raise your hand. Let us applaud you. And of course, I want to thank the boards and staff of Mass Equality who spend their days making sure that nights like tonight are possible. Friends, we are gathered here tonight to celebrate. 7 years ago this evening, right here in Cambridge, same-sex couples were finally allowed to take intentions, something many of us didn't know what it meant until we were allowed to do it, right? beginning the process of achieving legal and cultural recognition of their love and commitment for one another. Some of these couples had already been doing the work of marriage for decades. Some had lived through the worst decades of our government's oppression and even violence against lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people. Some thought, many of us thought, they would never see marriage equality in their lifetime. But they did, and let the record reflect that they saw it here first. So I don't have to tell any of you in this room that equal marriage in Massachusetts was hard-won. Amidst an unrelenting wave of successful anti-ballot measures that swept the country in 2004, 2005, 2006, opposition by the religious right, the Catholic Church, the Romney administration. Yes, unclear which of those was the worst, right? We convinced a supermajority, 151 of 200 state lawmakers, to vote for equality and oppose a majority vote on a minority's rights. It was remarkable. No similar fight had ever been won by an LGBT group anywhere in our country, ever. It transformed our Commonwealth, and it set in motion a chain of events that have transformed our country. Tonight we celebrate, in the simplest terms, the triumph of love over hate, the triumph of pride over prejudice. It is that simple. So it took a few people to make this victory possible. People who dared to dream about marrying in their lifetimes, couples who had the courage to tell their stories and put their face on the issue, activists and allies who had the fortitude to fight year after year, some leaving their jobs to join the fight full-time, volunteer, so that all of us would be a little bit better understood by the public at large and a whole lot more free. Tonight it is my honor to introduce to you two of these couples. Beginning at 12:01 a.m. on May 17th, the city of Cambridge opened wide its doors and welcomed 263 couples to apply for licenses to marry, along with 10,000 people cheering them on. Many folks gathered on the City Hall steps in the afternoon and evening on May 16th, marking the special day with celebrations, flowers, hugs, high fives, and even lavish picnics. It had to have been the lesbians having picnics. All were elated, ecstatic, and giddy with excitement. But among you that evening and through the early morning of May 17th, some very tired women who had spent the night of May 16th on the City Hall steps were there. Yes, in true blue lesbianic fashion, they plopped beach chairs on the front stoop at 12:01 a.m. on May 16th and waited patiently. They waited for dawn to break and for the crowds to gather. They became Cambridge couples number 1 and 2. The photo of couple number 1 exiting Cambridge City Hall is an iconic image that appeared in over 2,300 newspapers around the world. So please welcome to the 7 years of marriage stage, from the beautiful city of Cambridge, couple number 1 and couple number 2, Marcia Hams and Susan Shepard, Jade McLaughlin and Sue Hyde. That's right. That's right. How about some beach chairs? I want to thank Marcia and Sue especially for their dedication to equality for all and for their service on the Mass Equality Education Fund Board of Directors, of which Sue Hyde is our illustrious chair, and Marcia Hams is our trusty clerk.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Club Oberon. So I'm Sue Hyde, and I am one half of couple number 2. I can't know, does that make me 1/4? Math was never my strong suit. I would like to welcome State Representative and Cambridge City Councilor Tim Toomey. Thanks for being here, Tim. State Rep Toomey voted 9 times against the constitutional amendments that would have banned our marriage equality. Thank you, Tim. So I'm going to invite the other half of couple number 2, perhaps the other 1/4, my girlfriend and wife, Jade McLaughlin, to share some thoughts about that special night. Sweetheart?
So my girlfriend and I got married secretly on the sly one Friday afternoon because I had an unexpected cancellation. It was a bit more complicated, I suppose, but the details are true. We, like many of us, got our license in the spirit of the wild victory gay marriage represented in Massachusetts, particularly because our beloved city of Cambridge opened the City Hall doors at midnight, making its queer citizens the very first in the United States to obtain legal licenses. The marriage was a bit of an afterthought. As the weeks and months passed, my girlfriend and I learned that several other couples we know had, in a sense, sneaked off to get hitched. Progressive, leftist, feminist queers marrying in secret. Most of them were also lesbian parents, and most from time to time had joined progressive and feminist marriage critics who rightly identified the institution as one that had historically oppressed us. Had they, as we had, suffered some embarrassment and shame about getting married into the culture and political warp of the institution previously forbidden to us as homosexuals and condemned by us as progressives and feminists? None of us want the state mediating our relationships. All of us understand traditional family rhetoric as a fundamental and powerful instrument of right-wing social policy. And we all, I wasn't meaning this as humor, but okay. And we all want to continue to ask what the state is managing, regulating, privileging with its pro-marriage policies. We remain committed to a progressive vision of what it means to live a queer life. Having learned a potent critique of marriage, marrying can feel like abandoning one's identity as both a sexual outlaw and as part of a community that's in resistance to normal. Yet it's hard to describe the ecstasy of the celebration that was May 17th, 2004. The huge party, which was us, partied till the wee hours with wild spirit and glee until the last of us left City Hall. The very feeling of liberation and freedom that May 17th represented, that group ecstatic experience that many of us experienced there, has a certain irony. There is something about the rapture being bought by becoming members of the very institution that gay liberation promised to liberate us from. The 3 M's, marriage, mortgage, and multiplying. And yet there was a feeling on May 17th, a palpable feeling that a certain pain in exclusion had been righted, and had been righted not just because of a legal decision, but because of decades of movement building and organizing meant the ground for excluding us from participation as full citizens could no longer be justified. The night of May 17th reminded me of the political high that was present when, after the Hardwick decision, we participated in massive civil disobedience at the Supreme Court in 1987 during the March on Washington for lesbian and gay rights. We were fighting for our right to live as fully queer, and we were proud. At that time, we thought, as Margaret Drury said, a weekend like this reveals our secret longings. It reveals them even to us. It reveals our alienation, our yearning for what never was, a moment in which gay people are not only accepted or tolerated, but normative, in which we are the definers of the streets and the bedrooms, where our lives aren't split into day and night life. These moments of release, the '87 March, May 17th, reveal to us the power of the dominant culture we try to leave behind, the repressions and self-denials we live with every day. Could these revelations be the radical edge of what underpins a gay marriage movement? This set of longings to belong, to be included in a society that is organized in important ways by one's place in those most primary institutions of social reproduction, marriage and family. They are powerful and perhaps are the longings and desires that underpin our movements. Many people, especially not those previously part of social change movement, experienced a kind of political transformation as they sought the legal recognition of marriage. What of those longings? While this sometimes gets argued in the language of rights, it's our right to be married, and recognition, see, our relationships are like everybody else's. Those are also covers for a deeper set of longings. Longings to be seen as good, as whole, as valuable, as full citizens. Longings to feel that cosmic connectedness across generations and across cultures. Longings to have a place of meaning in the world in which we live, and that, more importantly, will outlast our lives. The underbelly of those longings is the way we remain deeply psychologically tied to public affirmation of our identities, even when we are queer. The psychic reproduction of desire, certain desires, must be part of our thinking and be accounted for in our political strategies. We do not want to be the good gays cast against the ever more marginalized group that chooses or has no choice other ways to live and love. And yet marriage can do that. It brings some of us into a kind of legitimacy and allies us with a social hierarchy we rebel against. But I don't think these are just conservative times. I don't think we are just growing older, more privileged, or more concerned with inheritance rights rather than radical transformation. A pro-marriage movement carries some other hope. Conventionally, the wish to belong, to be accepted, to be seen as legitimate, but more radically, the wish for a transformed relation to the society we live in. And if we live as queer married people, does that not lessen the strictures on mandatory heterosexuality, on gender binaries? Doesn't it transform marriage? Can we be married in another queer way? Can queer marriage disrupt? We work towards transforming both the institution of marriage and, in so doing, the society in which we live. I think we're doing okay, eh? Thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you, sweetheart. Okay, we're in Cambridge, right? We celebrate and we cogitate. Please welcome one half of couple number one, Susan Shepard.
Hi, I'm a little shorter. No, I don't want the box. Thank you. And I can barely see you. About an hour or so ago, my wife called me, and she says, "Did you mind saying a few things about how it felt to be couple number one?" So this is how it rolls, marriage. And I says, yes, honey, of course I would. So it's great to think about this again. Every time I see these pictures, of course, we think about it again, and we tell the story over and over again until we drive everybody crazy. But it was an incredible privilege to be couple number one. And we didn't mind doing it at all. Thanks. Thanks for the opportunity. And it was wicked awesome, is what it was. And all the things that Jade said are really, really true. And I have to probably tell the same story in a little different way. Before we became couple number one, we were just Susan and Marcia. And we had been together for quite a long time. I met Marcia when I was just a kid. I was 24. Seems like just a kid now, doesn't it? And we were doing other political work together. We were not concerned with being gay, shall we say, and our rights. We were involved in labor struggles. We were involved in women's rights. We met in a factory. We were both machinists at the time. So we were like into being the butch thing, you know. We had that going. But we didn't long for being married. And this is something that the press kept saying to you. You've been waiting to be married? Yeah, no. No, we're just like living, you know. We forgot about you guys a long time ago. No. And I never thought of us as particularly brave, be honest with you. We were just like, you know, living, as I say. But I look back, and recently we were in San Francisco, and we were at the Harvey Milk Memorial there, and we had, of course, seen the movie. And I think Harvey was killed in 1978, which was 2 years after we met. And at that very same time, we were talking about having a child. And I think back to that and the kind of hatred that was pervading the country at that point. And what were we thinking about? You know, but, you know, we were living our lives. And people say, well, why did you have a kid? And I said, well, all my friends had kids. We wanted one too. And that's the way it went. And it was one step after another like that. And I think so we probably had a little more optimism, blind optimism, I'm sure. And people we lost over the years. I've lost family to AIDS. And we don't forget them either when we're partying like this, for sure. But what has marriage meant? I was surprised at what marriage meant, actually. And, oh, I meant to tell this story that we had been talking about not getting married, just as Jade was saying, after the court decision came down. I said, oh, well, who wants to get married? We didn't know anything about it, frankly. So we watched some movies, and we interviewed our straight friends and asked them, why did you get married? And it's very interesting. I should write that paper. About what the men said and what the women said and how different that was. But so then they decided, the big they, were trying to take this away from us. So we said, okay, now we have to do it. There was no doubt in our minds. And our son came to us and he says, oh, what's you two 60 chicks going to do now, this, you know, paternalistic institution of marriage? You're going to jump right in? So I says, well, Pete, the FU position has changed, pal. And we went with it. But surprisingly enough, that's probably how we started out. But then all of a sudden, I'm like, you know, she's calling me wife. And, you know, that's a little bit in your face, too. You know, when she goes to her cohort, you know, her friends at work and says, my wife this. And okay. So we have to keep up that little thing that we do because we're queer. And want to stay there a little bit. But it was surprising how liberating it was. I can't tell you that nobody was more surprised than I have been at how I thought I was being myself before, and now I'm really being myself, so you better be careful out there. So, but, you know, happy anniversary, everybody. Thanks.
Now I'd like to invite all of the couples that were there on May 17th, waiting in line, to come up on stage and join us now. Come on. Or people who are members of couples. Come on down. Let's have another hand for everybody. Is everybody here? I don't know if you noticed, but we're all wearing Keep This Coupon badges here that says couple number whatever we were. So that was really special, particularly since we lost ours. So now I have the pleasure of presenting our inaugural Mass Equality Visionary Award in recognition of an individual who brings to life our common vision of a commonwealth in which lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender people live, love, work, study, and strive in healthy and affirming environments from cradle to grave. Margaret Drury, would you please join us on stage? Welcome, Margaret.
Thank you, Marcia.
For those of you who don't know Margaret personally, I want to share a little bit about her. Margaret's a long time and very active member of the First Parish Unitarian Universalist Church in Harvard Square, where Susan and I are also members. Prior to becoming the city clerk of Cambridge, Margaret was deeply engaged in Central American solidarity work. And since 1992, Margaret has served as our city clerk in Cambridge, the keeper of the official records of the city. She keeps all our records, including city council minutes and documents and certificates of birth, death, and marriages. And so it came to be that on May 17th, 2004, Margaret Drury presided over certainly the most rambunctious and giddy group of intendeds ever seen at Cambridge City Hall. The 263 same-sex couples who are represented here gathered there to file our notices of intention to marry. As the keepers of all records in Cambridge, Margaret and her staff could simply have said, the city clerk's office opens for business at 8:30 a.m. on Monday, May 17th, we'll see you then. But no, that wouldn't be Margaret Drury, the Margaret Drury that we admire and value. So when city leaders decided to open City Hall at 12:01, midnight, on May 17, 2004, Margaret said, well, we'll be there and we'll be ready. And, and City Hall was festooned with streamers and a cake and a party, and it was amazing. So as she had registered the first domestic partners in the Commonwealth years before in Cambridge, she made sure that Cambridge opened its doors first on this historic day. So Margaret and her staff were ready. While 10,000 people partied and gathered outside and hundreds of us lined up to become legal at long last, our intrepid clerks did the most important work of that historic night. With graciousness and welcoming hearts and minds, professionalism, and with a personal commitment to equally excellent customer service for everyone, Margaret led her staff through a 5-hour marathon of intentions taken, notices filed, and paperwork perfectly prepared for each and every couple. And I'll tell you, when Susan and I got down there and we saw Margaret and we were nervous as heck, and I couldn't figure out how to sign the form. It was really great to have her sitting there calming us down. They had a short respite for a few hours after all this, and then returned to City Hall to open their office doors at 8:30 a.m. and set about marrying everyone that wanted to get married that morning. And they've been doing that ever since. There were many who played important roles and parts on that most special day, but only one woman was the great woman working behind the desks in the basement ensuring that the laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts respected each and every one of us. And so, Margaret, it's with humility and respect that I present to you the inaugural Mass Equality Visionary Award. And where is it? Thank you. Okay. So the plaque reads, May 17, 2011, D. Margaret Drury, City Clerk of Cambridge, Massachusetts. Thank you for your dedication to public service, to the people of Cambridge, and to the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We honor your work, love, and grace to make May 17, 2004 a night and a day expressive of our dazzling dream of a future in which all are welcomed, respected, and cherished. Congratulations, Margaret, and thank you.
Yep, you got it. There you go.
Go ahead.
I want to thank Mass Equality for this award. I am truly honored, and I am accepting it on behalf of the many city employees and officials who made the commencement of legal same-sex marriage in Cambridge such an historic and celebratory event.
All right.
In November 2003, the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court, with a decision written by our own Chief Justice, Cambridge resident, legalized same-sex marriages effective May 17, 2004. The Cambridge City Council immediately adopted an order calling for the issuance of marriage licenses to same-sex couples as soon as legally possible, and for a suitable celebration of this historic occasion. City councilors made it clear to me that as soon as possible meant 1 minute after midnight on May 17th. I have a confession here. I tried my best to argue on behalf of my staff that we could be just as welcoming and affirming at 8:30 a.m. But luckily, the city councilors prevailed because they were absolutely right. Starting the evening of May 16th, Cambridge had a marriage celebration at City Hall. That was a celebration to remember. Over 10,000 people were there. City Hall was festooned with white tulle and ribbons. There was music and dancing in the City Council chamber. At midnight, a giant wedding cake was cut by Marcia and Susan, couple number one, and served to 277 couples inside the hall. And beginning at 12:01, the clerk's office, staffed by volunteer city employees from secretaries to the superintendent of schools, set up in the hallway of the basement because there was not enough room in the clerk's office, took marriage applications from every couple waiting to apply.
That was amazing. That was amazing.
I think it was 4:15 when the last couple filled out their intentions. And the next morning, bright and early, couples who had gone to court for a waiver of the 3-day wait for their licenses lined up to get married. It was a bright, beautiful sunny day. It wasn't raining like it's going to be this May. Folks from Marriage Equality and the Lavender Alliance and other supporters handed out wedding cake from Rosie's and pink and red carnations. City Hall corridors were filled with couples and their families and friends. Municipal employees happily ate wedding cake and volunteered to take pictures of the happy couples. The deputy clerk and I married at least 40 couples on the front lawn of City Hall. Passing drivers honked, and pedestrians passing clapped.
their appreciation and congratulations. This was truly an amazing, amazing day. And on that day, especially on that bright, beautiful, sunny day, we were truly all standing together on the side of love. Thank you.
Oh, let's do it again. Thank you, Margaret Drury. Thank you, all the couples, for being there. You're dismissed. Love you. Take a seat. And while folks are getting back to seats and tables, I'd like to welcome back to the 7 years of marriage, still itching for equality stage. Everybody all right? All right, good, good. From Somerville, half Irish, half Italian, all the way in it, Carol Suffredini.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I hear that. Thank you. I've been informed that we have a few more electeds in the room. I'd like to welcome Senator Pat J. Mass Equality was founded to create a better Commonwealth for LGBT people, and there is still more to do to turn the tide of inequality and discrimination. Our work is not done until youth are no longer bullied in schools because of who they are or the families they come from. We're not done until our parents and grandparents can age without having to retreat back into the closet. We're not done until we have curbed the rising incidence of HIV and AIDS, until everyone in our communities, including our transgender friends and loved ones, are safe to live openly and freely with the basic ability to just earn a living. We're not done until our government funding levels, which we pay for, by the way, include adequate resources to support the needs of our community. And we're not done until the simple fact of living a lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender life stops resulting in higher levels of stress and poorer health outcomes, which is documented here in Massachusetts. And that is a sad fact, isn't it? Recently, we helped ensure the confirmation of Judge Link to the state's Supreme Judicial Court, the first openly gay and married Supreme Judicial Court justice in Massachusetts, and only the third gay justice in the nation to win nomination to a state's highest court. But anyone who reads the news knows that the process was profoundly ugly. An eminently qualified, long-serving, universally respected judge, Link was disparaged in the press by elected officials, no less, as lacking family values and impartiality simply because she's gay. 7 years into marriage equality, and there is this filth on the front cover of the Boston Globe. Focus on the Family, which some of you may know. You do know. A national anti-LGBT group has announced a 15-state plan to roll back LGBT rights across the country this year. And shocker of all shocks, Massachusetts is one of their targets. They are granting $150,000 to their state arm, the Massachusetts Family Institute, it pains me to say the name, to ensure the defeat of the Transgender Equal Rights Bill. To put it in context, $150,000 is more than 10% of Mass Equality's annual budget, and it is larger than the entire budget of the Massachusetts Transgender Political Coalition, which is our partner on all transgender equality issues. So make no mistake, Massachusetts is still ground zero in the fight for full LGBT equality. This year, we are working to pass laws that would prohibit discrimination against transgender people, improve early detection of HIV and AIDS, and serve LGBT elders. We are working to increase funding for LGBT youth and HIV/AIDS services, and we are working directly with schools to ensure that the anti-bullying law passed on Beacon Hill translates into better lives in our communities. It took all of us in this room and thousands more to ensure equal marriage in Massachusetts. In the face of a committed and well-resourced opposition that is not ever going to give up and will never stop trying to roll something back in Massachusetts, of all places, we need your help and your continued investment in equality to finish the job of making the Commonwealth the best place to live, love, learn, work, from cradle to grave. So here is how you can help tonight. You can join our mailing list to stay informed. You can sign a postcard to your lawmakers. You can volunteer for a phone banking shift to help us connect residents with their lawmakers. You can come to our lobby day at the State House on June 23rd. And lest we forget the money piece, you can become a gem. Now, who in this room doesn't want to be a gem? Because we're all fabulous. A gem is someone who gives every month to sustain the day-to-day work of Mass Equality for the long haul. A monthly investment in equality for just $20, maybe a latte a week, depending on where you get your lattes, helps ensure the steady income that funds our victorious outcomes. Our volunteers will be coming around and passing out Take Action cards. Please fill them out and return them to a member of our staff or a host committee member at some point tonight. One of our field staff has a saying that I adore, although I've never told her that. She'll find out tonight. Victory belongs to those who believe in it the most and believe in it the longest. I think if that doesn't capture the legacy of Mass Equality, then nothing does. So thank you for being here. Let's mingle, let's dance. There's going to be cupcakes. I think they're over there. And let's party.